So hello, everyone. I am Brianna Rossett. I am the Office and Events Coordinator here at the Small Business Center. And thank you everyone for coming today and learning more about insurance. I know it's a very exciting topic, but it's extremely important, and it is actually a little bit vital to your business. Just in case if something happens, you want to make sure you're covered. And we have three amazing experts today that will be discussing it. I would actually like to pass it over to Chantal Ouellette, and she would like to say a few words on behalf of Trenval.
Awesome, thank you, Brianna. So my name is Chantal Ouellette. I am the Administrative and Communications Assistant here at Trenval. So Trenval is a federally funded, not-for-profit organization. We're located right on Loyalist campus in the Pioneer Building. So we offer business resources as well as business counseling and various business financing options for locally owned businesses in Belleville, Quinte West, Sterling Roding, Tyananaga, and Deseronto. So if anybody has any questions for me directly, feel free to reach out to me. I'll drop my contact in the chat below, and you can reach out whenever it's convenient for you. So thank you, Brianna, for hosting such a great workshop, and I hope you all enjoy.
And for those who are going to be watching the recording, I will send out Chantal's information as well. So if you wish to reach out to her on a later date, you're more than welcome to do so. And as well to everyone here that came in person. Or sorry, not in person, virtual. I would like to introduce our three speakers for today to essentially talk about, what you don't know about insurance. This is a workshop. You'll know what you should know about insurance. So we will have a large team. It was a little small team, but essentially they cover all the areas within the Shepherd group. So we actually have Neil Shepherd. He is the president and the CEO, as well as Christina Goncalves, and she's the operations manager and personal insurance advisor, as well as Flora D. Mintich, the financial service director. And I will now pass it over. I believe Christina is the first speaker, and I will share my screen.
Perfect. Thanks, Brianna. I think our names are going to be the most complicated of today's presentation.
I didn't struggle. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
So just to kind of piggyback on what Brianna was saying, thank you everyone for making yourselves available for what we hope is a not always interesting topic made interesting. When we were thinking about what would be important to share with everybody today, we thought, what are the kind of reflected on when somebody approaches us for insurance? What are the things that are usually surprises, or what are the areas where there's generally the most sort of misconception? And we thought we'd sort of make that the focus of today's presentation. So we decided to call it What You Don't Know That You Don't Know About Business Insurance. And we find that's usually where things tend to go sideways, is that obviously as a business owner in your respective industries, you are probably experts in your own fields, but not experts in insurance. I mean, we happen to be, because that's the field that we're in, but you're not necessarily. And so as a result of that, oftentimes things get missed because we're just not asking the right questions as consumers, because we're not experts in these different fields. And so again, we decided to make that the focus of the conversation today, hoping that we could, one, give you some thought-provoking questions to kind of walk away and kind of reflect on in terms of your own insurance. Answer some questions that you may have. We'll be speaking, as Brianna said, to different segments of insurance, which I'll get to shortly. And so again, hoping to make this a very informative, casual kind of conversation for everyone around insurance, so that everybody can walk away with some tidbits that they didn't have prior to this conversation. You can flip, Brianna. So we'll start off by introducing the Shepherd Group and who we are. as a brokerage, look at what the value of a broker actually is. Some of you may have experience working with a broker. Others may have only worked with direct agents previously. So we thought it was important to kind of highlight what the difference between the two is. We'll share some tidbits around commercial insurance, also around financial services, and some tidbits on personal insurance as well. We thought, again, to make this session as valuable as possible, we'd look at insurance from the lens of the different aspects of a business owner's life. Obviously, the commercial or the business aspect of it kind of leading the forefront here, but then as individual people and business owners, we do still have insurance needs in other areas. And so we thought we'd highlight a couple of those things here also. In respect to who we are as a brokerage, for those who don't know much about the Shepherd Group, we're really focused on small business owners and entrepreneurs. That's really our expertise, really guided by our president and CEO, Neil, who'll share a bit about himself and his journey and why this has really become a focus for our brokerage. Specializing in the needs of small business owners and entrepreneurs, we recognize, as I said, that we're multifaceted as business owners and entrepreneurs. There is obviously a huge business component to our lives, but we're also people at the end of the day that own homes and drive cars and are living and breathing and can get sick. And so it's important to us to be able to offer a solution in all of those areas. And where we find we bring the most value to our clients is that they're able to take care of all of those needs under one roof and really have a team of people manage the insurance aspect of all areas of their life, as opposed to having to go to multiple places to get this resolved. We found, and our clients will say this directly, that it just makes for a much more efficient and effective process when they can just work with one team under one roof to manage all of this. And it just allows us to get to know the client at a much deeper level, which makes then the advice and the product offering, again, that much more tailored to the client. And it's all founded for us under this belief of really doing what's right. And I'll share a bit deeper of sort of an explanation as to who we are as an organization just in the next slide here. So I'll touch on this a little bit later in the presentation, but one of the things that we think are super critical in your decision-making process when it comes to insurance is really knowing who you're working with. Insurance products are readily available in a ton of different places, online, in person, through brokers, through agencies. And for the most part, the product offering isn't necessarily unique between one place and the other, but what does make for a unique experience is who you're working with in terms of securing that insurance policy and maintaining that policy over time. And so we thought it was important to share with you all today who we are as an organization and why we do what we do and how we do it. Most importantly, our core purpose really is to do what's right. Kind of seems like it's a given, but unfortunately, and I think we've experienced this just working with companies in general, that's not always the case. We do that because we know that the work that we do is actually vigorously impacting lives. Everything that we sell really day to day is just paper until an unfortunate point in time where someone either needs to be able to reopen their business or put a roof over their family's heads again. And so that is our way really of impacting lives on a day-to-day basis. And again, knowing that what we're doing today is for protection in some future point in time, our ultimate mission is to protect futures by what we're doing today. And we do that by living through 5 core values as an organization, which are commitment, leadership, expertise, consistency, and professionalism. I'll share in the next slide what our clients say about us, the ones that end up doing business with us. And I think if you take some time to read our Google reviews and what clients have to say about us, you hear these words and coming up as themes and what people have to say about us. And so I'll just bring this back to my first point around it being super critical about knowing who you're doing business with and who you're choosing to basically build a trusting relationship with, and as far as who's going to be looking after your insurance needs, be it for your business or for yourselves personally. So I shared here with everyone a sample of a recent Google review from a client. This happened to be a personal lines client who has done business with us for several years now and has extended, I guess, our services to his family as well. And I thought it was important to share this one. I mean, this is just one of many examples of some positive comments that people have had to share. But I think it's a good representation of how what we do day to day is grounded in this purpose of doing what's right and making a positive impact for our customers.
I'm going to run with this one. This one's me now. Hi, everyone. My name is Neil Shepard, the owner of the Shepard Group. Great job, Chris. Thank you. There's a little bit of blurb around our organization here, but I'll just summarize it. As a small business owner and entrepreneur, I understand what those needs are of a business owner. The last thing they're thinking about is insurance. They're thinking about how do we increase our sales, retain good employees, expand the business. And as I said in this summary here, I saw a gap that was there where I could apply insurance and have a conversation from a business standpoint versus all the legalese of a document to understand where can I help support them to protect that business and asset as they build it without being an exorbitant cost. Because at the end of the day, you still have a business to run, and insurance needs to be the right product at the best price. So one of the things, again, as Chris went through when we created the business around the purpose around do what's right, we do what's right. It's simply understanding what that business owner is going through and supporting them to get that right coverage. And I think it's really important to keep it as simple as possible. And I think we've done a really good job with that, as shown with some of our reviews. And then we'll get into a little bit more from a coverage standpoint, what kind of exposures you can run into as a business owner or an individual, and how we can go about maybe even helping you and giving you some advice along that journey.
I thought I'd survey the room, the virtual room here. It's a smaller group, but I just thought maybe to just elicit some kind of engagement from everybody to get a sense of where everybody's at on the scale as far as insurance. Oftentimes, insurance is viewed as a liability or an expense, right? At least some people view it that way, and other people view it as an asset. So I just wondered where everybody was at in terms of where you sit on the scale.
This is a chance to, just type it in the chat and what you think.
No right or wrong, or no quiz to pass at the end of this.
I would look at it as an asset for sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Sandy.
For me, it's 50-50.
Kind of depends on the day. Depends on the.
Yes, depends on the day. Depends on who's in my vehicle. Depends on where I am.
Yeah.
Day to day, it's mostly a liability.
Yeah.
When it's important asset.
So I've seen some comments come through the chat. I get, so it's not a shock to me necessarily that we sit on different sides of this scale. And I think, Brenda, to your point, it does change depending on certain circumstance. We've heard all sorts of kind of viewpoints or opinions around just insurance in general. It's expensive. I don't really get it. I spend a lot of money, and then when I need it, it doesn't do what I need it to do, or like all sorts of variations. And so as I said in the beginning of this, we'd like to have a conversation from a bit of a different viewpoint of the things that maybe aren't always considered as far as, when we're talking about insurance or considering insurance, to really highlight where it could actually truly act as an asset as opposed to a liability. It is an expense, obviously, at the end of the day, whether it's a personal expense or a corporate expense, but it is an expense technically that's designed to act as an asset for that one unfortunate future point in time that nobody can foresee or necessarily always plan for, but brings you the peace of mind that knowing that, God forbid, something does go sideways, that you do have the protection to either be able to reopen your doors, get a car back on the road, or have that roof over your head. So we'll kind of touch on this theme a bit more as we continue going through the presentation, but thank you for those who commented. For those of you who don't know what a broker really does, or where there may be a bit of a misunderstanding or misconception as to the role that we play in this insurance conversation. As an insurance broker, we work for you, really the client. We are essentially the middle person between you and the insurance company who your contract or insurance obligation to is directly with. As your broker, it is our job really as the intermediary to ensure that we get to know you so that we can properly communicate to the insurance company essentially who you are, what the exposures to your business are, history about the business, all things really about you and your business so that they can adequately insure you. It is also then our job to act as your counselor, advisor, use any of those types of adjectives that describe someone who's there to give you advice and to walk you through something when needed. That's the role that we play as your insurance broker. And this is no different, whether it's a commercial policy or personal lines policy or even a life or health policy. As a broker, we are contracted with multiple insurance companies, which means that we have access to a multitude of options. Sometimes what you need is something that's maybe a bit more in the box or sort of common, whether it's a specific business need or industry that you're in or the type of car you drive or house that you live in. And sometimes those needs are a bit unique and they don't necessarily fall within a box, depending on what it is that your business does or the revenues that it produces. Sometimes you need to explore some more non-traditional kind of options that can fit the unique needs of your business. As a broker, we have access to the standard companies that write more of the in the box type of risk. And we also have access to non-standard companies that'll write pretty much everything that the standard companies will not. So again, regardless of what your exposures are, what your needs are, we will have a solution one way or the other. And life and business isn't really flat, right? How the business looks today may kind of put you into a certain box that the standard insurance companies are okay with, but as the business changes, you may pivot and go in a different direction. We've seen a lot of this happen throughout COVID where, people had to kind of reinvent themselves in their business and take a totally different direction with their business. And sometimes that takes people outside of the box. And so the benefit to that with a brokerage is that you're not necessarily left out to dry. Or being told we no longer have an option for you. It just means we have to change the options and kind of pursue a different avenue, but the option is always there. We are regulated by our regulatory body, which is RABO, the Registered Insurance Brokers of Ontario, and the IBAO also. We kind of know what we're doing. We're forced to make sure that we all know what we're doing, that we are compliant in following best practices, that we meet certain codes of standards with our client. And so there is integrity and compliance behind what we do, which I think is also important to know.
So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the commercial insurance side, otherwise known as business insurance. That's my specialty, being the business owner. I understand the exposures. So a lot of times you hear a lot of people don't understand why they need it. So hopefully by the time we're finished, we can let you know why you need it. And one of the more important things I think is really important to know is, why do you need to budget for it? Because a lot of people do not understand they need to budget for this, no different than they would their rents, salaries, anything of that nature, buying product and whatnot. So there's some of the areas here. We're going to talk more about the liability and a little bit of the property side of it. When you speak about liability, it's always third party. So your business is providing a service, either someone's coming into your premises or you're manufacturing products of any nature. So, even if you're renting a location as a tenant, you still actually have a premises liability exposure. So if anyone came into your unit, fell and injured themselves, you would actually be able to be sued with a statement of claim from a third party, even though you do not own the property. In this country, we have an Occupiers Liability Act where you have to keep your premises safe from any encumbrances. Even if you had vacant land with a fence around it, had a sign saying keep out, but a snowmobiler in the winter, as you know, they'll take the open fields and go down. If they if you had a covered well or whatnot, an old well there, and they were actually injured, you can be sued for that. So you have to be able to protect yourself as you're building your business and people are coming in and out of that business. The other area of concern is products. A lot of businesses may provide a service, but a lot of them will manufacture or provide products or third-party products where they relabel them. At the end of the day, even though you didn't manufacture them, but you were selling them, you could also ultimately be sued and brought into a lawsuit. The beauty about a commercial liability and policy is it has a duty to defend. So the policy will defend you up to the limits. If you were purchasing $1 million business policy, it would cover you up to that $1 million, any settlement and court costs and legal fees, because the insurance company basically takes it over and negotiates, and hopefully they'll negotiate a lower cost. But that's why you buy that policy. A standard legal fee just to respond to a statement of claim will run you anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 in Ontario. Depending on what your business is, you might be able to have a policy that's going to cost you a little bit less than that. You have operations and completed operations. Operations, for example, if you are a contractor going to a third party, installing their ventilation system, and while there, one of their employees fell over or tripped over the cords and whatnot, or any equipment you leave, it sounds like it's not something that would happen. It happens quite a bit. And it can cause a lot of challenges for that contractor or any third party if you're working on someone else's premises. And under completed operations, that's after you've left the job site, the work is done. Something could happen after you've left, even if it's been signed off. I'll give you a prime example, a sprinkler contractor. They finish doing the work, they test the sprinkler, it's working. Overnight, the sprinkler heads burst, the entire premise floods. They're now on the hook to remediate that damage. So these are the different areas that you can really get yourself challenged for. But again, what do you need it for and why do you need to budget for it? So important. And then the property side of it is first party. That's your property. That's any equipment usual to your business. Could be manufacturing systems, could be your computers, telephones, desk, any equipment that you're using to produce any type of service or goods for third parties. It's really important to review your policy. So Christina gave some great examples around, we're an independent broker. So, and not to disparage any other companies, but if you were dealing with a Desjardins, you're dealing with one of their employees. They can only sell Desjardins products. So, every year we would usually, every 2 to 3 years, we go out to market to make sure we have the best possible package at the right price for you. And that's also where we come in and we start getting an update how the business is going. Because businesses start small at the beginning, but they can start scaling. As Christina said, some do pivot into different areas. And we always have to be on top of that for you to ensure the insurance company understands what they are still insuring. So these are some of the areas that we really like to focus and laser in on. But again, really understanding what your risk is, owning a business, and also why you need to budget for it, because budgeting is very important. We see some customers that say, you know what, we had maybe $1,500 budgeted for the year, and the policy actually required minimum premiums were coming in at $20,000+ a year. So it's really understanding what are you setting out to open and what are your exposures. Does anyone have a business right now that have any questions on, or have had challenges in the past securing the right coverage or understanding it?
I have a question. Now the trend is a lot of businesses, instead of essentially if they're doing, office work, or it's more of a service-based business, and they realize that they don't need an office space anymore and they can work from home. And they have employees that can work from home, but they trip and fall when they're, they trip over their cord. You just mentioned tripping over their cord. And essentially, so what type of insurance, what do you kind of need to look for in that sense?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So two things: if you're working from home, and Christina can get in this a little bit and a few more slides under the personal insurance, but one of the biggest things is if you are working from home, you need to let your insurance company know, especially if you're the business owner, because they're not contemplating that you're actually running a business out of the house. Even though you might have visitors or not, you're still running a business out of the house. So if something were to occur, someone was injured coming in, they could deny that claim. You still need to carry your business liability insurance, because liability, again, is for third parties. So I'm protecting my business from any third party that I might come into interaction with, either through goods, services, products, anything of that nature. You wouldn't need your property insurance because you could probably extend some of that off your home insurance, but I'll let Christina speak to that. But you would still need business corporate liability, because if something again would happen and you were sued for any, as long as that they could say there was some type of negligence there, they can actually bring a suit against you. And that's the thing in Canada, especially in Ontario, with the laws that we have.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anyone else have a question on that?
You can move us to the next slide, I think, Brandon, if no questions.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, financial services. So attracting and retaining employees with group benefits. When it comes to insurance, one of the biggest challenges that small businesses have is finding the best way to take care of their employees and understanding the question, how does group insurance work? For a small business with limited resources, this could be extremely difficult because you don't have an HR department, you don't know how to budget for it. Well, we are here to help you with that, for budgeting and helping design a plan for you and your employees. And there's several benefits that come from having a group insurance plan, both for the employees and the employer. Generally, for the employee, they don't have to pay as much being part of a group plan. They're eligible and there's no medicals required. And a group insurance policy can be tailored to the needs of your group. In a group benefits plan, you have a life insurance component, and it's not medically underwritten, it's guaranteed acceptance. You have health and dental insurance, which comes in handy for single people, families, couples. Everybody can benefit from a massage or their prescription paid for. And for the employer, the benefit is you're implementing a group insurance policy and you're taking care of your employees, and it will attract and retain employees to your company. And companies will generally enjoy healthier workplaces with people taking care of their teeth or getting a massage therapy or seeing the chiropractor. So for the employer also, any premiums paid to the insurance company are considered a tax-deductible business expense. So there's perks on both sides for the employees and the employer. So we can help with that. We can do a group benefits plan as small as 1 employee to over 50 and 100 employees. So we can help you with a group benefits plan in the financial services department of the Shepherd Group. Next, income protection through disability insurance. The purpose of disability insurance is to replace part of your income if you become too sick or injured. And that's a valuable asset to have. Going back to Christina's slide on liability and assets, what other kind of insurance do you have that protects your income? Think about that for a second. And having a disability insurance policy, you can have it two ways, either in a group plan, you can offer short-term or long-term disability, or you can purchase the insurance individually. So there's two ways you can buy it. And typically, disability policies pay anywhere between 60 to 80% of your gross income. And it usually goes to the age of 65 years old. So what else can I tell you about disability? Most common causes of long-term disabilities. It's really not surprising. And I'll just let you know that arthritis, back pain, cancer, depression, diabetes, heart disease, and stroke are some main factors of a long-term disability case. And these are medical illnesses, not necessarily physical injuries. So something to keep in mind. And when I say you have two options, you can buy individual policy through the Shepherd Group. And what's great about an individual policy is you pay the premium amount, and it's the same premium monthly. It stays with you, and you don't have to be part of a group policy, and you own it for as long as you pay the premiums. So you don't lose coverage by changing jobs or losing your employment. You have it. So that offers you some security. And as I said, you can have it in your group insurance plan. And the downside to that is if you leave your company that you work for, then you lose that benefit. So it's only good as long as you're employed with the company. But again, through a group insurance plan, there's no medical required. Buying it individually, it is medically underwritten. Also, in a group plan, it's much cheaper than an individual plan. So there's some tidbits on buying it individually or being part of a group plan. The next point is business continuity with life insurance. This is really key person insurance, and key person insurance is a life insurance policy that a company purchases on the life of your owner. So think of a top executive or an individual at your company that is key to the business. The company is the beneficiary of the policy, and the company pays the premiums. So this offers a financial cushion to the company should something happen to that key person. If the sudden loss of a certain individual, it would profoundly negatively affect the company's operations. So the death benefit of this person essentially buys the company time to find a solution, implement strategies, or whatever they need to help the business to keep running. So this is a good thing to consider for a small business that is run by 1, 2, or 3 people. And the cost of key persons insurance is very well priced. It is an insurance policy. You can buy term life or permanent life for key persons insurance. And it's really sleep insurance for your business to keep running, and something to think about to invest in for your company. So those are 3 quick insurance products that we have in financial services that can help you protect the health and wellness of your business.
Laura, I think you bring up some really valuable points that often get overlooked, right? When you think of insurance, you think of the things that you need insure and protect, like the physical, tangible assets, and we often forget about ourselves.
Mhm.
And whether you're running a small business or a large corporation, chances are the business can't function the same way without you, but we don't
Mhm.
often see things from that perspective or realize the value that insurance for these intangible things, the value that they actually provide. So thanks for those reminders, Flora.
Welcome.
I'll just touch on now what I find are kind of hot topics in the first point, but also some areas where there's usually some confusion or misunderstanding of as to how things should be done as far as personal insurance. When I'm talking personal insurance, I'm talking about the homes that we live in, the apartments that we rent, the cars that we drive. Brianna, you had asked a question around in-home business. This has obviously become a lot more of a trend these days, thanks to COVID. As Neil said, it's super critical that you advise your insurance company if you're actually operating a business out of your home, regardless of the type of business. There'll be some standard questions that the insurance company will have as far as wanting to understand what the business actually is. Is it a service-based business? Do you have equipment in the home? Are you seeing clients in the home? Obviously, an exposure for an in-home hairdresser is going to be very different from an in-home baker, which is also going to be very different from a groomer or someone who's like, reselling Amazon goods or redistributing products. So all of those situations are very unique. And so it's important that the insurance company understands exactly what the exposure is. Are there people coming in and out of the home? Do you have staff working at home? Are clients coming into the house? Do you have, thousands of dollars worth of stock? So it's, again, important to disclose these things, because what you don't want to have happen is there be a claim or an incident of some sort and be denied any coverage because the insurance company wasn't aware of the exposure. Rental exposures are also a hotter topic these days. As life gets more expensive and tougher, people are looking for more ways to kind of supplement income and are renting out, their basements or doing room rentals through Airbnb or renting through Verbo. And so this has kind of been a theme now for a little while, but I don't think it's a trend that's kind of going anywhere. This is also an exposure that needs to be relayed to your insurance company. Having different people coming in and out of your home definitely creates a liability exposure that the insurance company needs to be made aware about. I often find people are kind of hesitant to share, what's really going on, because usually the assumption is, and sometimes truthfully, if you tell somebody what's actually happening, it's going to cost you a few more bucks to do that. Well, what's made available in exchange for that is actually coverage that would respond if you needed it. So honesty really is the best policy. In working with a broker, again, we are that intermediary between you and the insurance company. So, telling us what's actually going on gives us an opportunity to walk you through what are the things that you need to know. Excuse me, sorry. We can actually help you navigate that process to ensure, again, that the insurance company is fully versed in what's going on. Also see sometimes some issues with who owns the property. So often business owners will purchase vehicles registered under the company name for the tax benefit of such. That isn't necessarily an issue. You can insure a vehicle, whether it's under your personal name or your company name, but that just dictates how it can be insured. There's sometimes a misconception that because a vehicle is in a company name, it's a commercial vehicle. Not necessarily. Excuse me. These cough attacks always happen at the most ideal moment here. So just because a vehicle is owned by your company doesn't necessarily classify it as a commercial vehicle. So if you're using the vehicle to get to and from work or run your errands and pick up your kids from school, even though it's under your company name, if it's being used for personal recreational purposes, it is still considered a personal vehicle, and therefore you would need a personal policy. However, on the opposite scale of that, you are actually delivering, you're a florist and you're delivering floral arrangements to your clients, or you're picking up equipment or materials that are being delivered. That now presents a commercial exposure to your vehicle, and you need to have your vehicle commercially insured, even if the vehicle is registered under your company name. So who owns it, whether it's a company or an entity, doesn't deem it either personal or commercial. It's the actual usage of the vehicle that will determine how it should be insured. When approached by clients or prospects, these are types of questions that we will ask to, again, identify what the actual usage of the vehicle is, so that we can ensure that it's adequately protected. You may not necessarily know, as an average consumer, what certain things you have to let us know that would impact your insurance. So it's our job as a broker to get this information basically out of you by asking very pointed questions. The last point tends to be a bit more common knowledge as far as bundling your policies together. 99.9% of the time, it is the most cost-effective way of going about your personal insurance. That essentially means ensuring that you're working with the same insurance company, not just the same broker, for your home and your auto insurance needs. By doing so, you get a pretty sizable discount on each policy. So when you combine the two of those discounts together, it does make a sizable difference. So not only is there an advantage from a cost-saving standpoint, but just again, ease of doing business, having everything consolidated out of under one policy. Some insurance companies will actually collapse the two contracts into one, which means, policy changes are much more easier to manage. You'll have one payment plan, and it just makes it a lot easier. As a business owner, you've got a lot to deal with. We try to simplify things as much as possible. So definitely multiple advantages to keeping everything consolidated. And this comment is applicable to what Neil said in commercial insurance. Just like with your personal policies, it's important to review them at least once a year. Things change, right? Last year, you might not have been renting the basement. This year you are, and you won't think to necessarily let anybody know, or, you may have changed how you're using your vehicle. You may have updated the home, which may result in some discounts in your premium. So, it's important to have this conversation at least once a year. Again, you may not know what is relevant or important to let your broker or agent know, but it's important that you're working with someone that will ask these questions to kind of pull this information out of you, again, to ensure that your policies are always properly reflected.
We do have a question here, Christina.
Yeah, I saw that come up. Do you mind just reading it, Brianna?
So if you're using your vehicle for both personal and business, do you need both types of insurance?
It would still just be one type of insurance. So we can't, in essence, have two policies insuring the same vehicle. So it'd fall under a commercial policy, most likely, again, without knowing the specifics of this situation. But the commercial policy would acknowledge that there's both a personal and a commercial exposure.
Okay, hopefully that answered your question, Lenore.
Specifics of the business.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Cool. You're welcome. Any other questions? I think we're safe to move to the next slide.
We had this slide already.
There we go. I guess just some final thoughts. some reminders and hopefully some tidbits that everybody can walk away with in terms of just reminding everybody of the importance of reviewing your policies, at least annually, but for sure as the business changes or how lives change. We would always advise clients, regardless of what it is, even can't possibly make the connection yourself as to how the change would impact your insurance, just give us a call. We'd rather have too much information than not enough. If it is something that is insurance, we will advise you accordingly. But if it is something that is either going to result in some kind of implication on your policy, sharing that information with us ahead of time just allows everybody to more proactively plan for changes that may be necessary. To Neil's point, we need to budget for insurance, again, whether it's for yourselves personally or whether it's for the business. Being able to budget means being proactive in reaching out to somebody saying, hey, I'm thinking about, switching my business into this direction, or, we think we might double our revenues, next year. What do we have to consider about that? The relationship that you develop with your broker, your agent, should really be a relationship, someone that you can pick up the phone and call and tell them what's going on so that they can best advise you and ensure that your policy is changing with you as your needs change. And so I think the most important piece of advice that we can leave is to really work with someone who understands your needs, which are going to be different depending on the day, the week, the month, and they're going to be very specific to you and your business. So I know we had a couple of questions here. We'll still stick around for anyone who did want to ask maybe a more specific question. Well, we'll cascade this to Brianna at the end of the presentation. Brianna, if you can just kind of share this with all of the participants. If you wanted to reach us, you can most definitely do so by phone or by email.
For sure, definitely. I will send everyone your contact information. So if they wish to reach out to you, they're more than welcome to do so.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Neil, Christina, and Flora. I really do appreciate you taking the time. And I'm going to stop recording. So if you wish to ask those questions, you're more than welcome to do so.